silicone mask. Okay. Now you know bowls are here. Nothing's changed. Cornstarch put dust in here. All right. Kilo, convenient to work with. And again, so when you help yourself with cornstarch and cream of tartar, let's try not to have cornstarch and cream of tartar all over the bench. If you have a little spillage, just take the time to clean it, otherwise it's just going to be all over the place. Thank you. Okay. So basically I'm adding all my powders together, my dry. And we're going to sift it. I have a sift there. I can get a couple more. Oh. Oops. Okay. What I do sometimes, I'll just use it.
What was the second thing that you put in there? The starch?
Starch, cream of tartar, icing sugar.
So everything is in there?
Yes.
Okay.
Okay. Now I'm going to melt my gelatine. Okay. It has to be hot when you melt. Just don't melt it till it's melted, until it's warm, because this is cold. So if the gelatin is too cold or just barely melted, right? It's liquid, but it's going to start setting. Your pastillage, you're going to have a harder time to mix your pastillage. So you're going to have to reheat it over. And if you, can you look at the recipe? I think I might even have written the temperature of the gelatin myself.
No.
So, don't burn it, but it stinks. Of course, it's an animal product, right? So we have 2 microwaves, you're aware of that. State-of-the-art microwaves. About in 40 seconds, okay?
The chef.
So it's fully melted. I'm simply going to add all my gelatin here. Okay? This is going to pre-mix in the bowl. Now, as I said, you can team up in teams of 2, but that means you're going to have to double the recipe. I think it's easier to simply mix a single recipe at a time. It is quite physical, you know. You can have it's not a very soft base, so it requires quite a bit of kneading here. So it's starting to. Now, when making pastillage, mixing pastillage, you could use a mixer in a mixing bowl, right? But make sure the hook is clean. When you see hooks that are completely grayish, what do you think happens? You know what I mean? When sometimes hooks, they will go in the dishwasher and they come out like really dark gray. If you mix pastillage with this, chances are you might end up with gray streaking in your pastillage. So never use also aluminum tubes or bowls. Okay? You do not want to contaminate pastillage with that. Okay. one, if you want, you can use gloves on. We're going to be wearing gloves at all time when we do sugar. So I get really, really soft hands. I always wear gloves, sugar, of course, right? Normally the recipe works pretty fine the way it is. Sometimes you may need to add a few drops of water. Sometimes maybe a little bit of icing sugar. So we need to work all that icing sugar mixture into the dough. It's very dry out here, so pastillage dries out very quickly, so we have to be careful. So it's like doing bread by hand. You see the dough is starting to form here. So you should be able to collect all your dry mixture. It is quite physical. So that's why I recommend doing a single recipe per person. Don't tackle a double recipe, by the way. If you want to tackle a double recipe in teams of two, go ahead, start mixing, and then finish. Let's say you got a double recipe, it's not fully mixed, split it in half. Then you can mix your batch. I can mix my batch, right? I don't see the point. It has to be a nice smooth dough. Some of you may have worked with fondant, rolling fondant before for wedding cake. Somewhat similar, not the same, but somewhat similar. Fondant you can beat. This I will beat. Again, you can try a piece if you want. When you put it in your mouth, it's your business. Sometimes you'll see recipes that use vinegar. We're using cream of tartar here, vinegar. What's the purpose of the acid in here?
Avoid crystallization.
I'm so sorry.
Avoid crystallization.
No, because it's already, icing sugar is crystallized.
Okay.
Right? When you think about it, it's crystallized. It's to give it a little bit more of a white appearance, especially for a long period of time. If you're going to do a piece of pastillage that's going to stay for a couple of years, or let's say 6 months, over time it tends to get yellow. Acidity helps a bit with that. And sometimes you come across with recipes that have vinegar. It serves the same purpose. However, vinegar is in liquid form, and vinegar evaporates a little bit faster than water. So if you work in a very humid environment, you can replace a small portion of the water with vinegar. So you're going to have a pastillage that's very acidic. It tastes like vinegar, and you can smell it. And that helps to dry your pastillage. Let's see. smooth. What you're gonna do, don't never leave it exposed. So what I like to do, damp cloth, this is damp, not wet, damp. If you're gonna store it for a few hours, and you can even now wrap it with saran wrap. So your damp cloth does not dry out. Okay, so that's what I'm gonna do. A few days in the cooler, no problem, or even at room temperature. Now, if you work in a cold room, a cold environment, don't forget you have gelatine in here, right? So your pastillage might be a bit hard. So what you can do is warm it up a little bit in the microwave. It will soften it up again. Now, do not overheat it. If you overheat it, it's going to be too soft to work with. Plus, you're drying it. So when it gets back to workable temperature, you've lost moisture. So you have a pastillage that's kind of harder to work with. It tends to crack a little bit more when you warm. So, one recipe each. When you're done, I'll show you. We're going to start